Geppetto's puppet. We need your help.
Lies of P is not your kid-friendly Disney variant of the story of Pinocchio and Geppetto. There are no crickets here, no whales to be swallowed by, at least that we've seen yet, and as you play as Pinocchio, you may realize that you are not, in fact, made of wood. No, we've stepped into a much darker timeline, where the puppets who were created to make life easier for the denizens of Krat are now rebelling, and it's up to you, as P, to figure out what's going on. In this obviously From Software-inspired game demo, you will navigate the twistings and turnings of the city of Krat to rescue Geppetto, defeat 2 bosses, and a mini-boss, in a frankly quite exhilarating take on the classic Soulsborne genre. You'll face mechanical dogs and police officers wielding signs as weapons, and even some tougher enemies that use axes or police batons. Before we get too far into the video, for anyone who hasn't been on my channel before, welcome. My name is Puppeteer, and I've been playing Soulsborne games and Souls-like content for about 4.5 years now, and making content surrounding those games and various other games for about a year now. So if you like any of my analysis or commentary about the game, please like, comment, subscribe, or share so I can work towards my goal of becoming a full-time content creator. Now sit back, relax, and let's get started. One of the biggest things that has always been a draw for me with the Soulsborne games is how the levels are designed. There are always little nooks and crannies for you to explore, and there's typically an item or a piece of lore for those of you who are diligent enough to find all of them. This game does a magnificent job in the areas from the demo to lure you towards the inevitable goal of reaching Hotel Krat, then towards the rescue of Geppetto and the second boss, which is the final for the demo. As in all Soulsborne games, when exploring, enemies and items do not respawn unless you die or sit at a stargazer. So if you ever feel lost, you can always run around until you find either an item or an enemy, and you'll know that you're in a new location. The game does a good job of telling you what your objective is, but not revealing the troubles that you're going to face on the way to those objectives. For example, in the very beginning of the game, you were told to go to the Hotel Krat, but not where it's at until you catch a glimpse of it in one of the early on side paths overlooking a ravine between you and the hotel. You don't know how to get there, you only know that you have to explore until you find it. As I've stated, this game is very heavily inspired by the Soulsborne style of games, and it shows. Instead of Estus or a flask of Crimson Tears, you get pulse cells to heal you. In place of haze or blood echoes, you obtain ergo for leveling up and purchasing from the merchants you find along the way. In this world, your home base is the Hotel Krat instead of Firelink Shrine or the Round Table Hold. Pretty much all of the basic things you would expect to see in a Soulsborne game you will also see here. With that being said, there are a few things that make Lies of P stand out, including Legion armaments, weapon mixing, and the focus around weapon durability that is not as vital as games made by FromSoft. The weapons you find in Lies of P have a very small durability pool, but one of the things the game starts you out with is the mechanical arm wielded by P. One of the features of this mechanical arm is a grinder, which you can use to repair your weapon even during combat. If your weapon ever gets in the red, you will do decreased damage, and if your weapon breaks, you will have to use another weapon or run as fast as you can back to a Stargazer, which is the replacement for lamps from Bloodborne or Sights of Grace in Elden Ring. One of the other interesting aspects of the game is weapon skills and Legion arms. Each weapon blade and weapon hilt has different skills, such as the Wintry Rapier's blade, which can stab several times to deal massive damage on a boss or a bigger enemy, or the Electric Coil Stick, which adds electric and blunt damage to your attacks. The use of these skills, called Fable Arts in Lies of P, requires Fable slots, which you generate from attacking enemies or using a consumable called Fable Catalysts. For the Legion arms, I found 2 of them. The left arm of steel, which the game starts you with, and which is a punch that does damage, and the puppet string, which you get at the Hotel Krat and can pull smaller enemies towards you. The Legion arm in Lies of P reminds me of the Shinobi prosthetic from Sekiro, but the use of these tools varies wildly between those 2 games. I'm curious to see what else can be done with the Legion arms and what combinations we can expect in the full release. One of the things I am most interested in with Lies of P is weapon mixing. I only played around with a little bit, but added the Electric Coil Stick blade with the Wintry Rapier handle to make a club that deals electric damage that scales with technique. I think this is one aspect of the game that has a ton of possibilities and could lead to extremely interesting builds for P. One of the main draws to any Soulsborne games is the story, and how it interacts with and influences the world. In the story, you work your way through the tutorial, you're introduced to the fact that there are different types of puppets. You're even given a hint about what the tutorial boss is going to be if you can find the advertisement for the Parade Master. It talks about a grand exhibition where they will unveil it, and he even has a nice saying, "Hello there, I'm the Parade Master. I like singing and marching with people." I feel like this shows how the world was before the puppet frenzy, and we can see that at some point there was a lot of life within this city. city. Now, unfortunately, the only things walking the streets are violent puppets, and those brave enough to take them on. When you get to just before where the Parade Master boss fight is, there's a merchant who talks about the festival and recommends that you buy something, saying he didn't think there were any stalkers left to fight the puppets. The merchant says to you,
"You ought to buy something while you're at the festival. You can't rely on yourself alone."
When you smash open the door to the boss fight, he destroys the wooden circus cutouts that you can see, and Dr. Robotnik enters the arena. Wait, no, that's not right. Sorry, the Parade Master comes out. He is frankly an awesome boss and has a bunch of cool attacks, but the one that stands out to me is that during his phase transition, he rips his own head off and uses it as a mace during the second transition. After his phase transition, the boss seems to get more desperate, his attacks becoming wilder and taking up more space. When you finally beat him and move on, you gain access to the Hotel Krot, which has been your only goal given to you since the beginning of the game. When you get to the door, you get your first opportunity to choose between lies and truth. If you lie and say that you are human, the security system says,
"Grand Covenant's fourth law. A puppet cannot lie. Welcome."
Additionally, a pop-up comes up and says that your springs are reacting, showcasing the balance between puppet and human that you'll have to navigate in the game. And while we don't have answers yet, hopefully in the full game we can see what the implications of always lying or telling the truth are on the world of the game. Here is also where you are introduced to the characters who are going to be your weapon upgrader, who is named Eugenie and gives you the puppet string Legion arm. Sophia, who is the person you need to talk to in order to level up. A home base merchant named Polandina, and the only other puppet that is at the hotel. And Antonia, who is a wheelchair-bound woman who gives you a costume. There are also a couple of locked doors here, which might be occupied later, but for now we can't access them. Later, when working through the next area, you come across your first side quest, where the objective is to find a woman's baby. When you get up to where the next boss is, the baby can be found near the entrance of City Hall, but it's a puppet. When you return to the lady with the baby, you can give it to her, and another circumstance to lie is brought up. You can tell her the baby is a puppet, or you can tell her it is a cute baby. If you tell her the baby is cute, your springs react, and you are given an ergo fragment and a piece of defensive gear. But if you tell her the truth and let her know that the baby is a puppet, she doesn't believe you, and only gives you the ergo fragment as a reward. As you work towards the next boss, you will need to go across the Alchemist Bridge. Here's where you will have to fight the Mad Donkey mini-boss, who you will have to defeat in order to save Geppetto. He is obviously very angry, saying that the entire reason that the puppet frenzy is happening is because of Geppetto and the other alchemists. He even calls you the devil's puppet before starting the fight. However, he is entirely trivialized by the fact that he can be sidestepped and backstabbed repeatedly. Once you rescue Geppetto from the Mad Donkey, he steps out of the carriage and says,
"Finally, we meet, son."
It's a dream come true. Seeing you like this, I understand why some people despise me. I invented the puppets after all. I should take responsibility as their maker. But in order for me to do that, I need to take care of the puppets at City Hall.
He then gives you some of the necessary items to move forward in the game. He tells you he will talk with you once you get rid of the puppets in the City Hall. As you work your way towards City Hall, fighting some of the harder puppets, you can find a hint at what the next boss will be. In a news issue discussing the puppet, it states, "The new police officer puppet's overcharged storage battery exceeded its capacity, causing chain explosions, malfunctions, and serious body damage." These are foreboding words for people looking into what the next boss could be. Alternatively, you can completely miss it like I did on my first playthrough of the demo. Eventually, you make it inside and see the first place you can summon for boss battles. When you enter the boss arena, you are greeted by the Iron Giant. Oh wait, I mean the Electro Spider Cop. I mean the Scrapped Watchman. He crawls along the wall of his arena and his head spins as he crackles with electricity. Some of the moves he has are frankly insane. He has a big wind-up once you get into the second phase where he jumps and spins in the air, comes back down attacking you, and then explodes with electricity. When he grabs you, it gives you a visceral sense of fear, and it feels like it could really mean the end of a run, with the boss pounding you into the ground and screaming right into your face. When you finally beat the Scrapped Watchman, you are given your rewards, and a stargazer shows up for you to travel back to the Hotel Krot, where you can speak with Geppetto, who now occupies one of the rooms that was locked before.
Ah, you've returned. Forgive a sentimental father for worrying about his son. Always remember that you're precious to me, even when I ask you to do something dangerous. Remember, the hotel is the last safe place in Krot. It's our only refuge in a city full of perils. It'll be extremely dangerous if anyone has ill intentions. Be careful who you tell about this place, especially if they're stalkers or alchemists. Be wary of dangerous people. And
As he finishes telling you about his next moves, the demo unfortunately ends, and it says thank you for playing. Overall, I feel like this demo gives a good showing of what we can come to expect from the Lies of P. With this game having elements of Bloodborne and other Souls-likes, I know that it will be a game that veteran Souls players will tear through with ravenous intensity. The combat feels good, the level design feels very reminiscent of the best parts of Sekiro and Dark Souls 3, and the enemies are cut perfectly from the realm of Soulsborns. Anyone who enjoys those types of games are going to love pushing through all of the puppets to finally find a satisfactory end to this story. Personally, I'm looking forward to playing the full release when it comes out. If you enjoyed any of this video, I would really appreciate it if you liked or subbed to the channel. I play a lot of Souls games solo and play other games with Septimus and some other friends. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads for Lies of P, and you can check out my socials in the description box down below. As always, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.